This podcast is part of the Some Buddies Network. You're never alone when you've got some buddies.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as MrMostDaysOff, and today we are talking about the day the violence died. And of course, joining me as always, your co-host with the most, Richie theWizKid.
You know, I remember a long time ago when both of us were so afraid to sing in public all the time. And technically this isn't public, but I feel like on a weekly basis we have to belt something out and we just go for it now. And I enjoy that. I enjoy that very much, Miles. Oh, I guess I should throw it back to you as well. The man, the myth, the Manhattan Madness. Sounds like a wrestler name. It is Miles.
Well, today is a very special episode because we have another incredible guest joining us today. He has worked on the show Impractical Jokers and currently writes alongside Mike Price, former Simpsons writer, for the show F is for Family. Welcome, Henry Gammill. How are you today, sir?
Hi, Miles. Hi, Rich. And thanks for having me. And I gotta say, I don't work alongside Mike. I work underneath that man. That man is my boss. Do not get me fired tonight. That's my only ground rule.
That's the goal of our show going in. I'm sorry. Like that's our only objective here tonight is just get you in as much heat at work as possible, sir.
All right, let's go out with a bang then.
You did say former writer Michael Price too, so you may have already gotten him fired. Just
did I say that? Oh my god!
Unless you know something that we don't know, maybe you got the scoop.
You know, the truth of the matter is Mr. California over here has me up past my bedtime, so I'm a little bit off my A game because we usually record cozily in the middle of the afternoon, and it's like 10 p.m. I'm like, what's happening right now? I should be playing video games. But no, we're so glad that you could take the time out of your busy schedule to come along and chat with us today. So thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So, first and foremost, the big news that we've got to talk about is F is for Family renewed for a 4th season. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
I'm personally very intrigued. You guys always seem to leave it on a huge cliffhanger, and even though you killed a man in like season 2, I think that season 3, leaving it on the Frank's dad showing up is even more crazy to me. Just cannot wait to see what's going to happen with season 4.
Yeah, and that was kind of a decision that came down to the wire. Like that was something we do. We'll kind of put off writing the finale for as long as possible. Then we decide like, oh shit, what is next season going to be about? So at one point it was going to be Sue was going to be getting arrested and was going to have to do with Win-Win's trial. And we thought that was going to be too schmuck baity, like we're not going to throw Sue in jail like for the show, and I mean not yet. Well, we could. We'll see what
the door. I mean, if you're 30 years, you know, you got to go.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe season 29 will be like, shit, what next? We did the Murphys on the moon already. All right, let's put Sue in jail. So yeah, it was. I forget who pitched that. I mean, it was probably Bill and Mike. They're they're our fearless leaders, and they're the best. And so I mean that's the little kernel. So it's been really fun in the room this year, kind of just working out that character and the relationship and where we want to take it. And I got to keep it vague because I can't spoil anything.
Sure, we legit don't want to get you in any trouble with anyone, especially Mike Price. But where are you? What can you tell me? Where are you along in the process of season 4 right now?
We are about halfway through the first writing pass, or through the table read phase, I guess you could call it, where. For those of you that don't know, on a TV show, you write the script and the room rewrites it, and then you do a table read. You get as many of the actors together as possible and play it for an audience, and you see what works and see what doesn't, and you get notes back. So we're about halfway through that process. Animation is kind of its own animal because you get these things back called animatics. That I'm sorry if I'm just like totally mansplaining.
No, you're doing
animation
great.
To you guys.
It's perfect.
But okay, cool. You get these things back called animatics that are like these rough pencil drawings, so you can kind of see what the episode is going to look like, and then you can rewrite in that phase, and then you get the color back, and you're a little more limited in what you can do, but you can make changes there if you want. So it's this long, arduous process. So we're probably only 14 years away from season 4 airing. It takes forever.
Okay, we're sitting on the edge of our seats the whole time.
I know. I also don't want to spoil anything because for all I know, it's all going to get rewritten in the next couple months or so.
Sure. I want to shout out one of our longtime listeners, Chris Manley, at Chris Manley 2017 on Twitter, and he's also a huge F is for Family fan. So I mentioned that you were going to be on the show. And he just wanted to ask, he said, I'm sorry, this is such a general question. You probably get it all the time, but how long does it take to write and produce each individual episode?
Chris Manley, thank you so much for the question. It's, I can't speak to other shows. I think we're this perfect storm of animation and Netflix, so we're kind of writing the entire season at once. I think, one episode in a vacuum, it's maybe about 9 months to a year just from, first breaking that story to putting it out into the wild. We, on a show like, The Simpsons or Family Guy or something, you can kind of stagger it throughout the year because you're rolling out all the episodes, over a 24-week period or whatever it is, whereas we have to drop 10 at once. So that kind of...
it's a blessing
and
and
it kind of hampers us a little bit. Absolutely, yeah. And the cool thing about that is, we'll pitch on an idea and come up with something for, say, episode 9, and then we'll say, let's build up to this, and, you can go back to episode 2 or 3 and sprinkle in some little details that you can pay off later. So it's kind of, but it's really cool being able to look at the season as one episode and telling a story and watching the characters evolve over that arc, and then telling smaller stories along the way. We're kind of just working on the whole season at once, and that takes us a year plus to make. So it's cool working on something for a year and a half, and then everybody gets to watch it in one weekend.
That's right. Yeah, it is something that we know that it's just all the work you guys put into it, and then people like us, we're in for about 10 episodes, half an hour each. We're 5 hours in, and we're demanding for the next season. And you guys are like, can we enjoy the fruits of our labor for a minute before we get the Twitter blowing up at us again?
No, it's awesome, and for Chris Manley and all you guys out there, and you too as well. Everybody who's tweeted at us and, sent us fan artwork and stuff, it's so awesome. It's so cool to see our filthy little cartoon has resonated with so many people. And it really means the world to us. And that, you guys keep us coming back, and, you're raising your voice and letting Netflix know that people are watching this show. And that's awesome. So, thank you to get sappy and soapboxy there.
Oh, no, that's great. We love how much you support your fans. I know that Mike Price does a lot of stuff with the FIFF Netflix handle, where if you send any fan art that's F is for Family related, they'll post it and show it. And I think he's even told us in the past you guys keep some of it up on your walls when you're working and various things that, which is really cool. Really cool.
We have... we moved up to a different office for this season, and so we took all the old fan art and put it up on the first wall, essentially, that you see when you walk into the office. It's really cool. And so we're posting new stuff up in the actual writer's room as we go along. It's really satisfying seeing it fill out, but, the OCD part of my brain wants a full wall, so keep sending us that artwork, guys. We got to fill this wall out.
So, Henry, you're a pretty young guy, and you're looking at your IMDb page. F is for Family seems like a really huge opportunity for a young writer. May I ask how you got your foot in that door?
I actually started out, I was not a writer on the show originally. Season 1, I was the script coordinator, which is, essentially the writer's assistant. So I was the guy sitting in the room on a laptop, writing down people's pitches and meeting notes and all that, and, having the script open when Mike Price and the other writers and Bill Burr going through it. I was the guy that was kind of in charge of that. I was really lucky that season 1 we had a tiny writing staff, and so Mike, God bless him, right away said to me, hey, if you have joke pitches, let them fly. We have a smaller staff than normal, so, if anything pops into your head, let her rip. And I did, and, I got jokes on the show throughout the season, and, Mike ended up saying, hey, if we get to come back for a season 2 and we get to expand the staff, I'm I'm bumping you up, which he did, which
Wow.
I would take a fucking bullet for that man. He's my hero. He gave me my start and everything. He's really awesome.
Oh, that's so good. That's so cool to hear, man. It's so neat to see that not only did you get an opportunity, but then you didn't squander it. You took advantage and were able to succeed in that role. So congratulations on that.
I didn't squander it yet.
There's still time. There's still time. Excuse me.
I got some fuck ups in there. Don't worry.
Is there a joke that? Is there a specific joke you can let us know from season 1 that was your baby?
Yeah, there's a couple that I really liked. There was one that was a throwaway line that kind of blossomed into something else where it was in the Halloween show when Bill and Philip are in the woods and they think they're about to get eaten by a werewolf, and Philip says, "If I die, tell my mom I pushed the soft spot on my brother's head when he was a baby and now he can't read." And that was my pitch. I was very proud of it. And then little did I know, season 3, that pitch gave birth to this other character. That we just had the idea let's bring the Anthony, Philip's little brother, back, and that was so much of that was this actor named Al Ducharme, who's awesome. This really hilarious stand-up who we brought on for season 3, and he really brought that character to life. And it was kind of based on this, and not based on it, was this voice that he did in his acts beforehand. So that was easy for us. He did a lot of the work for us coming in already.
You guys just brought it full circle for him.
Yeah. No, I mean he brought it full circle.
Yeah,
for us.
that's the way around. Excuse me. Yeah,
it was all him. And then I had another one that I liked in episode 5 of season 1 when the contract negotiations are falling apart, and now Roger Dunbarton is getting heated, and someone mistakes his wife for his daughter, and he says, "You think I'd fuck someone as old as my daughter?" That was my line, and I'm proud of that one. It was a fun day.
What head of a country type of figure could have ever inspired a joke like that? I would never know.
Well, those were this was way pre-Trump. This was that's the crazy thing is we put 3 seasons out, and we started working on at least with a writer's room. We started season 1 end of 2014, I want to say. So it's been a couple years, and it was really cool getting in on the ground floor and seeing this show evolve. When I first got on, it was called American Family or something, and then we wanted to call it Daddy's Home or Dad's Home, excuse me. But it was too similar to the Will Ferrell movie that was coming out around that time called A Daddy's Home. At one point, Bill was really pushing for it to be called I'll Put You Through That Fucking Wall.
Which is a great line. It's a great line. Probably doesn't go as well on a poster, but...
I don't know. I would be intrigued. And then I think I think Mike pitched the name F is for Family, and that stuck. So... yeah, I am so grateful for all the time I spent on the show and just being there season 1 and just it was really eye-opening, at least because I had never worked on anything animation before, and so to see it took months just to land on what do the characters look like, what's the aesthetic of our show, what does the house look like? All that was this long drawn out process. Whereas I guess something like The Simpsons starts because Matt Groening has the sketches. We didn't have that. It was we had the script and we had stories from Bill Burr and Mike Price's life, but the visual element wasn't there. I think from the start, Bill and Mike were adamant about doing a more grounded, realistic style, and so I think they looked to shows like King of the Hill as inspiration. We look a little different than that. And then also Peter Billingsley, another of our producer, was instrumental in Victoria Vaughn, and a lot of people were just kind of slaving away late night, and it was cool to just kind of be a fly on the wall and write down all the great ideas they had.
Well, it's such a great show that you guys have come up with, but one of the things I always love to talk about, because I think it stands out more even than just the show itself, it's almost taken off on its own. The opening credit sequence is one of the best opening credits for any show, period. I usually am quick to hit that Netflix option that's skip the credits. I never do that when I'm watching F is for Family. I always really enjoy that.
Yeah, I think only a sociopath would skip those credits.
Right?
It was this guy named Dan Sumich was kind of the brains behind that. He was our director. He was based over in France. He's Yeah, he's great. Wait, can you guys hear me? Sorry, I just got a connection loss thing.
Oh, yeah, but you're still here with or on my end. You good?
Okay, all right, good.
That's a likely try to get off there.
Yeah, he's like, oh no, I see this going south. What did I sign up for? So we're definitely going to get around to talking about The Simpsons so our listeners don't revolt. But before we get there, another show that I know Richie's a fan of. I've only recently started watching, to be honest, but it's Impractical Jokers. And I see you're listed as a producer for that show. Just briefly, what was your experience like working for those guys or working with those guys?
I worked on that show for a total of 1 week.
Oh, cool!
And, yeah,
hey, dude, you got the credit on IMDb. Totally worth it.
I know, yeah, because I think they ended up using one of my ideas, and so they honestly did not have to credit me, which was very cool of them. But I was really young when I got hired to that job, and I had no fucking clue what I was doing, and I was just awful in the room. And God bless them for putting up with me for a full week. If I were them, I would have probably fired me after a day. But yeah, so I mean, it was cool. It was a good like trial by fire and like kind of learning what not to do the next time around.
Sometimes that's the most valuable experience.
The guys are all really cool. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, the other way around, sir. I was just saying sometimes the bad things are the most valuable learning experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, all those guys are cool, and there's this writer named Casey Jost, who's awesome, really good guy, and very patient with me. God bless him. So yeah, I had no fucking clue what I was doing, but I think a couple jokes of mine got on, but I honestly couldn't even tell you what made it.
Yeah, I had all these questions, but now it's just like I don't want to bombard you when you're only there for 1 week. I saw.
I mean, I'll try to answer them, but I'm not an expert by any means.
Well, let me ask you this: were you a fan of the show before you worked on the show?
Yeah, I think it's a really clever spin that they put on it. Just where they're kind of razzing each other as they're razzing other people. I think they're really smart about it.
Right on.
Yeah, I mean, because that was, I was in New York for a while, and that was like at the tail end of when I was in New York, and I moved to LA like shortly after that. So I haven't seen or spoken to any of them in years and years, but they're killing it, man. I'm happy for them.
Well, just because I don't want to miss the opportunity to shout out another one of our listeners, at Teach That Ash is a big fan of that show as well as The Simpsons, and she wants to know, do you think there was ever a punishment that you think went too far?
Oh, you're asking the wrong guy.
That's a no.
I think the punishment that went too far was they had to sit in the room with me for a week. Yeah, they should have cut that out immediately. So God bless them. They're patient as hell.
Totally fair, man. Totally fair. Again, it's still cool. I mean, you've got, obviously, we all have to take these stepping stones in life to get where you get, and that probably in some way opened the door so you could get the assistant job with Mike, and then, now you're a writer on a hit Netflix show. What a life you're living, my friend.
Yeah, it's all right. Champagne problems when I complain, so it's pretty great.
So let's back it up a long way. Let's go back to when you were a kid, and tell me, were you ever a fan of a little show called The Simpsons?
That's the one with the yellow people. Yeah, I've heard of that one. Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. I mean, I grew up with it. And full disclosure, my dad has worked on the show since 1998. I don't know if that came up when you Googled, but yes, Tom Gammill and Max Pross are. I
thought I've seen the last name
producers
before
there.
On the.
That's hilarious. No, I'm really apparently terrible at research. I just found out.
It's not something that I like, advertise or I love my dad to death. He's the best. But it's so I mean he's been on the show since about 98, I want to say, but even before that, like, watched it growing up, and yeah, it's the greatest show of all time.
Do you have like an earliest memory? Do you remember when you first discovered the show?
No, it was just always there. I was born in 1990, and actually that's the first episode, the Santa's Little Helper episode. Aired December of '89, if I'm not mistaken, and then
nope, you nailed it.
The next episode came out the day before I was born. That was January 14th, 1990, and I was January 15th. So I mean, I like to say that it's true. The Simpsons is like a month older than I am, so I've never lived in a world where The Simpsons didn't exist, which is awesome.
Really cool, yeah, absolutely. We're very close to that. So we were both born in 1985. So
Right
I
on.
think some of our earliest memories, like we don't remember a time when The Simpsons wasn't a thing. And then like you, I'm sure elementary school, and you may have been just on or maybe it was the older kids for you, but it was like Bart Mania was just everywhere.
Oh
I mean, you
my
couldn't
God.
look anywhere without seeing Bart Simpson.
Oh, totally. I miss all those bootleg shirts. Like that was the greatest piece of like pop.
Don't have a
culture in my
horse, man.
Oh my God.
With the Rastafarian Bart.
Yeah, like Bart with dreadlocks and that's so great. That's every now and then I will just look on eBay and see if I can find one.
Oh, they still pop up for sure. Probably a lot more
For
than
shirt?
they used to cost for shirts. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome.
So hey, we are talking about the episode today, the day the violence died, which is actually a really kind of bizarre Simpsons episodes and a lot of, or episode, I should say. It's just one, but it is bizarre regardless. It originally aired in March 17th of 1996, so you're at the ripe old age of 6 years old. We were 11. And I guarantee that none of us got most of the jokes that were in this episode, at least the first time we watched it, because they even admit on the director's commentary, which is already weird on this episode because it only features Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein, which usually
no way.
these commentaries have about 6 people, and Matt Groening is almost always one of them. There's usually a director, there's usually a writer, there's usually sometimes a voice actor. This one, just the showrunners holding down the fort. And
That would
they
be really
even
cool,
say,
though, just to get the two of them and just, like, peer behind the curtain with just the two of them. I bet they had really good interactions on that.
Yeah.
well, they even said that this is one of the craziest episodes they ever made, and it is full of inside jokes to the point that they may have lost focus on who they were writing it for. It did, like I said, air on March 17th, 96. It was a long episode, so there was no chalkboard gag. And the couch gag was the body shop that we've seen before. They kind of come in as like gray, colorless versions of themselves, and then spray paint and eye guns come in and spruce them right up.
Not to put you on the spot, but wait, how often does that happen where there's no chalkboard gag? That seems like almost sacrilegious to me.
So it depends on the showrunner a lot of the times, because, like, for instance, in the earlier seasons, like 3 and 4, where it was Mike Reese and Al Jean. I am off my game today. Mike Reese and Al Jean, it was often they were coming in actually short, and they talk about this a lot on the commentary themselves, how they would have to pepper in longer and longer couch gags to kind of fill those times. That's actually the entire reason that circus line where there's like elephants and dancing line girls and like all that. That's the entire reason that was made, is because they just came up super short on an episode and needed to fill the time. But then you turn around and see people like David Merkin, Bill Oakley, Josh Weinstein, and their scripts actually tend to come in really long. So they often end up sometimes cutting just the chalk gag and occasionally cutting both the chalk and the couch gag.
Oh, man.
Which for Bill and Josh, it makes sense. They're fans of the show before they got to the show run, so they've got all these ideas and stuff that they can throw into the episode. So it totally makes sense.
Yeah. The title is a reference to the day the music died, which is February 3rd, 1959, when there's a plane crash that we lost the lives of Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and JP, the Big Bopper Richardson. Just a little homage to that. We do start in a manner that we often start Simpsons shows, and maybe you could add some insight to this as a writer yourself, but a lot of the Simpsons episodes start with the Simpsons characters watching TV, and from the commentary we've learned that this is because it's an easy way to manipulate the time as needed to either extend it or shorten it. Now, as a Netflix show, you might not have to worry about those same restraints as a show that airs on Fox does.
It's a great way to manipulate time, but it's also a great way to just cram random jokes in there, because you have a total like blank slate with that. You can put any goofy, kooky nonsense on the screen, and you can go off story with that and justify it as like, they're just watching TV. You can shoot for the moon there. So it's something that actually it happens for family sometimes if we're putting too many, like, oh yeah, Sue is at the house and the TV's on in the background. Like, we have to be conscious of not just making a TV show about other TV shows.
A show within a show.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of freedom.
I mean, you can get away with it like once a season, like Rick and Morty does, where you do the interdimensional cable.
Oh yeah, and those episodes are amazing. But you can go full non sequitur with those.
Yeah, absolutely. What the kids are watching in this case, Bart and Lisa are watching the 75-year anniversary of Itchy and Scratchy, and they are absolutely ecstatic. Bart says, "Lisa, if I ever stop loving violence, I want you to shoot me."
Will do. Which I can't help but think, because we're a few seasons removed from Bart being banned from seeing the movie, and I can't fathom that he hasn't seen it at some point. I know he becomes a Supreme Court justice, and that he doesn't see it till he's older, but it just bothers me because me, as his age, I would have seen the movie by now.
It's Bart. He probably found a way.
Yeah. I mean, it was harder back then because this was, 96. The internet was not totally, I guess it was technically a thing, but,
it came on a little disc in the mail, though. That's all you had.
The way 15 minutes to log on.
We learned that there's actually going to be an Itchy and Scratchy parade, and people are already lining up on Main Street, even though it's 11 p.m. at night. So Bart and Lisa slip out, but Marge quickly puts a stop to it, only to make Homer go along with them. I love Homer's line, though.
I like when they just go, "Bye, Mom, bye, Dad," and Homer's like, "Bye, kids, on your way back, pick me up a 6-pack of beer."
And then when he's told he has to accompany them, he's like, "Aw, can't they just take a gun?"
The gun, which he's referencing that they have one.
Well, how else are you going to turn off the lights?
You know what I enjoy about the Itchy and Scratchy cartoons, and I finally was able to nail it watching it to review for this episode, is that whenever Scratchy's dismembered, all of his parts still have animation and movement. Like if it just stopped, like if his eyeballs weren't moving when they're in the glass, it would just be really gross. But the fact that they're moving around and freaking out adds the humor to it, and it's just a little nuance that I never picked up on before. But it seems like
in
one
a
of the
twisted way. Yeah, in a twisted way, it's the eyes in the glass are almost adorable, and then you step back and you're like, "Oh no, that's a dismembered cat."
Well, when you put it like that,
sounds like you just came up with a joke for season 4.
Yes.
So we see the kids almost instantly get bored, and they notice the comic book shop's open. Great little joke here where they're like, "Save our seats." Homer goes, "Okay," but in the manner of time that it took, or the amount of time it took for that to happen, 2 people have already taken their seats.
Oh.
When the kids go inside the comic book store, it's oddly crowded. There are a lot of patrons, and they're considering it's probably close to midnight at this point. And it turns out they're watching a lost bootleg copy of Itchy and Scratchy meets Fritz the Cat, which Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein just said that they really love the movie Fritz the Cat, which is a X-rated animated movie about a cat, and they thought it would be funny to see Itchy and Scratchy's take on that film. And
yeah,
it
like
was.
you mentioned at the top of the episode, that was one of the many references in this episode that just flew way over my head when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it was cool watching it this morning and be like, "Oh, Fritz the Cat, I know what that is now."
I've seen that. Oh, shit, yeah.
Hey, my threads, baby.
While checking out the other merchandise, we see things like dolls and lunchboxes that are always there, but then Bart comes across a old animation cell, and he says, "Cool, I'll give you $10 for that."
How come he's never seen that one?
I love a comic book guy. "Are you the creator of Hi and Lois? Because you are making me laugh. That drawing's worth exactly $750 American."
It's valuable, huh?
"Ooh, your powers of deduction are exceptional. I simply can't allow you to waste them here when there are so many crimes going unsolved at this very moment. Go for the good of the city."
Sir.
That High and Lois joke is one of my favorite in the history of the show. I think, again, it flew over my head when I was a kid, but I just since then that line will pop up in my head maybe once a week.
Especially when I'm not sure if you're the same, but when I think of comic book guy lines, I hear them in comic book guy's sarcastic tone. So yeah, are you the creator of Hi and Lois? So good.
Yeah, it's like him and Morgan Freeman. Like you can't think of a Morgan Freeman quote in your own voice. It's going to be in his voice. That's
absolutely true.
Yeah,
100%. Just read that in my own voice.
So, good thing the kids and Homer got an early start to the parade because they wake up to find that they have prime seats. So good, in fact, that that's where the commentators for the parade decided to post up, so they have actually obstructed the Simpsons' view.
Oh, nerds.
Homer's trying to get a look. There's a bunch of cars and people in Itchy and Scratchy costumes going by, and Homer's like, which one's Itchy, the car?
The mouse.
Oh, I guess it's not him then. So then we see the announcers are David Brinkley and Suzanne Summers, which this was just a joke where they thought these two people in this room or in this setting would be funny together. And they actually reached out and tried to get both people to do their own voices. Unfortunately, David Brinkley was not available, so Henry Shear did it. However, that really is Suzanne Summers doing just those two lines. She agreed to come in and do that quick recording for him.
She played well off Harry.
Yeah, I wonder how someone who's born in like 2005 would react to that scene, because it's a very 90s reference and setup.
Yeah, I mean, parades just aren't popular anymore. I mean, I barely even like the Thanksgiving parade gets any views.
I know, yeah. I picked a good time to start writing for TV.
Exactly. I think you're in the right spot, man. Binge watching has taken over. I mean, we're a nation of binge washers. I wish we were more washers. We're binge
Sounds like
watchers.
A Netflix show.
Yeah.
You guys got to go pitch this. Binge watchers.
Netflix, they'll take anything.
Yeah. Calling Netflix, you're approved.
Binge washers. We've got 15 dryers and 15 washers. We're ready to go.
So the parade is going very well, but they chose an interesting route that actually ends up going through Bumtown. And I love this musically here because the Itchy and Scratchy theme is essentially playing the entire time. But when they get into Bumtown, it starts going really fast and the vehicles and the actors all speed up as they're running along.
And Bart has snuck into the parade before this point. So like he's marching with the parade. And so he is now in Bumtown, which I love. While he's marching, some voice I've never heard of just goes, Bart, in the background. I'm like, oh, he's recognized.
Interesting. I didn't catch that, actually. He's a celebrity. Well, whenever the parade gets out of Bumtown, for whatever reason, Bart is left behind. He just doesn't keep up with the rest of the people. And he quickly encounters a bum who seems very angry with Itchy and Scratchy in general. He's actually throwing tomatoes and insulting the creator, Roger Myers. Get out of Bumtown, you no-good bums!
She shows some respect to the man who created Itchy and Scratchy.
And this man goes on to explain that Roger Myers didn't create Itchy, he did, and he explains that he actually stole that character from him in 1928. But when he complained, his thugs kicked him out of the office and dropped an anvil on him. Luckily, he was carrying an umbrella at the time.
I love that bit.
Yeah, it checks out.
Always carrying an umbrella is the moral of that story. Yep. You never know when an anvil's going to fall out of the sky. Chester, the bum, even explains that before he invented cartoon violence, all cartoon animals ever did was sit around and play the ukulele.
Well, I'm not calling you a liar, but I can't think of a way to finish that sentence.
Really good stuff. We actually see that Chester is not lying. He's able to prove that he actually invented the character of Itchy because, fortunately, Bart knows where he can find a 90-year-old projector at his school, Springfield Elementary School.
It always made me laugh, too, that this guy's just carrying around this priceless artifact of film in his bindle.
Well,
Absolutely.
if we know that cell is worth $750, how much must that reel be worth?
Yeah,
Enough
you
to
can
prove a
smell
fourth
that.
grader wrong?
Plus, I've been to the antique stores, and just the boxes that those reels come in, the tins, I should say, those are freaking expensive on their own. So, I mean, really, that guy's not living life right.
Yeah.
The great news is that Chester has proven to Bart and Milhouse, actually, that he is indeed the creator of Itchy. However, the bad news is the 90-year-old projector ate up and burned up the film, so there is no longer any proof at all that can help him out.
We got to talk about how he killed an Irishman, Itchy did this cartoon, beheaded the president, and for the stuff that, I mean, can you imagine today if something like that happened?
And also the
Irish
fact
would
that-
still laugh it off.
Yeah. And also, I love how Milhouse can't read fast enough to keep up with it. That makes me laugh every day. His little exasperated sigh at the end of whatever that slide was. Oh, it gets me every time.
And yeah, it is. It's just this old-timey style, and even Bill Oakley on the commentary said that him and Josh Weinstein are just obsessed with those old political ad videos and things of that nature, and they really like Teddy Roosevelt in general. He's just a funny figure. So killing him was obviously the go-to move.
Yeah, also, story-wise within that film strip, that cartoon doesn't make any fucking sense. It's great. I had so many notes watching it, but I was like, it's fine.
Well, it doesn't really... It starts with, the mouse walking along the edge of the skyline, so he's walking vertically up and down, and he just randomly steps into the frame of the sidewalk.
Spider-Man used to swing above the city skyline, so it's totally cool.
It's Spider-Mouse, but... That actually is the end of Act 1, and we come back for Act 2 to see that Bart is encouraging Chester that he shouldn't be giving up, that he should be a millionaire. He just needs to go and talk to Roger Myers about, his creation so that he can get properly paid.
I love Chester's line coming back from the act break, where he says, "That was a nice film I had once. Last time I tried to impress a 4-year-old.
He basically learns, though, that the man that he had previously asked for credit was Roger Myers Sr., and Roger Myers Jr. is a completely different dude. He's in charge of the studio now, and he's a good man. Every Christmas, he goes to the pound, rescues one cat, one mouse, and gives them to a hungry family.
They don't have names.
That might be my favorite joke if you just think about how dark that is, because when people get hungry enough, I'm just saying. Good joke.
Or the cat could eat the mouse. It's dark on so many levels.
The mousekin, yeah. Bart decides that since Chester isn't going to be able to talk to the studio till Tuesday, I mean, it's the weekend, and writers, but animators actually have AA on Mondays, so it won't be till Tuesday that he's able to talk to the studio, so Bart's going to put him up in his home until then, and it's great because his parents aren't going to mind because they're not going to know about it.
So, Henry, how are those meetings on Mondays?
I've been blackout drunk for all of them, so I couldn't tell you.
I like how Bart once again is taking an older person into his house without telling his parents about it.
Mm.
He's done this with Otto and Krusty in the past.
Yeah, really bad parenting from Homer and Marge. Come on, guys.
Hey, it's when you're outnumbered. They've got the 3 kids, so they can only watch 2 at any given time.
Yeah, I guess Bart's a lost cause. You gotta put your eggs in the Lisa basket.
And the other one, what's her name?
So Bart puts Chester in the basement and is just not going to tell his folks. But then when Homer walks by, he asks for asks for spare change. And the best part, though, is Homer just flat out gives it to him without thinking twice.
Yeah, Homer's real dumb in this episode. I love it. Just him, he keeps whipping his wallet out, throwing his money away, offering the kids his gun. It's just beautiful stupidity throughout.
Yeah.
How much cash does he carry on him? Because at one point they asked for $183,000 and he pulls out his wallet.
Since you actually bring that joke up, this episode was written by John Swartzwelder, and a lot of the jokes actually were very divisive within the staff. In fact, that joke that you just brought up, Matt Groening was very against, and I was curious. I have no insight whatsoever, but it made me wonder if that had anything to do with him not being on the commentary for this one, if there was any bitter feelings or anything of that nature, because apparently a lot of people just thought that was going a little bit too far for Homer's character and made him to the point of being unrelatable. Personally, I thought it was hilarious. I didn't really see the controversy, but just that was from the commentary.
Yeah, at that point, he's in a rhythm. He's just, Bart asks for money, he's going to take his wallet out. And then he stops himself. If we saw him, whip out hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'd be like, wait a minute. But no, he's just taking his wallet out.
Yeah, I think that's how I interpret it as well, where he's not really, it's not that he has $118,000 or whatever it is in his wallet. He just is so dumb that he's like, what, you need money? This is where money comes from.
He might have that much money because when he's offered a couple bucks at the end of the episode, they're all $100 bills. So I don't know. Maybe his math has just been off his whole life.
He's awfully excited about those couple bucks, though.
Oh, yeah.
Bart is finally allowed, after a little bit of discussion, that they're going to go ahead and let him stay because of the fact that they think he's owed $800 billion.
And he doesn't know what radon is, so it's all good.
Yeah, that's a good joke. You know what radon is? No? It just stays silent for a long time. But yeah, so Marge decides since it's just going to be the one night, she's going to allow it. But we see the next day at Itchy and Scratchy Studios, and Myers is not having it. So let's review. You two screwballs have just strolled in here, fresh from the sewer, and give me a bunch of bull-dink about creating Itchy with no proof at all, and you expect me to give you... how much?
$800 billion.
And we immediately just cut to Bart and Chester being literally thrown out on their ass.
I think that joke is such a great misdirect, because you're expecting him to go the other way. You expect him to give you how much, and he's going to say, a can of soup. Something like that. So when it is a really high amount, I was like, oh yeah, that's the reasonable thing to do. That made me laugh.
And that is how most Hollywood negotiations end, I understand.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But then he goes, that brought back a lot of memories. So, this is just the person that he is.
This is not the first curb that he's been kicked to.
Did you say Kirk?
Well, we see next that Lionel Hutz is the option that they seek when they travel to the mall to visit. I can't believe it's a law firm. This is one of the funniest jokes. I don't know how well we're going to translate this without the visual aid, truth be told, but essentially Hutz asks for $1,000 retainer and Bart protests. $1,000, but your ad says no money down. And we see the paper ad that shows works on contingency basis, no money down. But Lionel Hutz explains that they got that a little bit screwed up and makes a few corrections.
Works on contingency basis? No. Money down.
Oh, and this bar association thing shouldn't be there either.
That was my favorite part. And he eats that part of it.
We were just talking about that beat. We see Bart just casually ask his father for $1,000, and Homer immediately pulls out the wallet. Wait, what for?
Paying for a lawyer for my bum.
Forget it. Another kind of funny reoccurring joke that they have in this episode is that Chester apparently owes people a lot of services for goods that he's received in the past, because at this dinner table at the Simpsons home that night, Grandpa actually recognizes Chester. I gave you a plate of corn muffins back in 1947 to paint my chicken coop, and you never did it.
Those corn muffins were lousy.
Paint my chicken coop.
Make me.
And they start rolling around and fighting, and it's actually a really great scene. It's a wonderfully animated fight.
And I love Marge telling Homer, that does it. One of them has to go.
Okay, Grandpa.
I love that. And it's funny that Grandpa remembers a feud with one guy he saw 49 years ago and remembers the guy and recognizes him.
They were good corn muffins.
I love when it happens again here in the courtroom. Like I said, they do a lot of just kind of traditional beats on these jokes that they don't really usually do in The Simpsons, but it's funny. It's just such an unusual episode because of how meta and inside it starts to become as the episode goes along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good callbacks.
Yeah, very much so. For now, though, Bart is actually reminding his parents that there is an easy, guilt-free way of sending or getting rid of Chester without sending him back to the gutter, and it's just going to cost $1,000. So we end up in a courtroom setting, because as the Simpsons creators like to point out, with a cartoon, you can go literally anywhere. So why not go somewhere interesting, like a courtroom? They are arguing over the creative license and copyrights to some of the original drawings, such as Itchy and Scratchy, and other members of the Itchy and Scratchy family, such as Brown-Nosed Bear, Disgruntled Goat, Flatulent Fox, Rich Uncle Skeleton, and Dinner Dog.
Which I think he points out that Flatulent Fox actually was based off a family member.
Like a real story? Yeah, that was just a real thing that happened. I really love Lionel Hutz because he's saying that, you know, his client's film predates everything, but he can't prove it. So the other lawyer's like, you don't have another copy of that film? And Lionel Hutz like, you don't happen to have a copy, do you?
Your famous film, the one you destroyed before the trial, and haven't been able to find another copy. Oh yes, that film.
Lawyered. Oh, so this is actually the next step on that joke, too, because it's actually Krusty the Clown is being interrogated when he's asked if he's ever seen this so-called animation genius before.
Yes, I have.
You have?
I gave him a couple of blintzes to paint my fence, but he never did it.
Those blintzes were terrible!
Paint my fence!
Make me!
You give me back those blintzes!
And we get another scuffle, this time in the courtroom. Which I love that the bailiff, or I guess Wiggum, just didn't come and like straight up tackle these two men, because that totally would have been allowed to happen in a courtroom. Love it.
That scene really does show us too that like Lampwick is a terrible businessman, because painting a fence is a lot of work and labor, and a plate of blintzes is not the right amount of money to charge for that. So
no,
I don't know. Maybe this guy's not on the level.
Does that mean he's also been a bum his whole life if he's doing work for food?
Yeah, he really seems like a vagabond.
With big dreams of a gold house in his eye. They go on, and unfortunately there is no justice for Chester at this time.
Objection!
Sustained.
If I hear objection is sustained one more time today, I think I'm going to scream.
Objection!
Sustained.
Ah! Hutz is great. But it turns out that there is actually a way to prove that the animation was there, because they see the sarcastic horse and manic mailman characters, but they're called out for stinking. I guess I got ahead of myself. We haven't actually proved this yet. I apologize. We'll move on.
How fucking dare you?
I know, I'm the
worst. We need to know about Sarcastic Horse and Manic Mailman, though, but they're very lame characters.
They are super like lame characters.
That's all Roger Myers Jr. or Sr. could do.
Yeah. And when he's being pressured too, he's like saying, like, you're saying this under oath? And Myers like, well, actually, I don't think I am under oath, but my father did create everything except for Flatulent Fox. That was based on a true story.
What fox?
So many questions.
But just then, Bart actually does get an idea, and he tells Hutz to stall the courtroom. So Hutz is like, can I bring back all of my surprise witnesses again?
Like when they ask if he has any more evidence, he says, we've got plenty of hearsay and conjecture. Those are kinds of evidence.
But Bart remembers at the beginning of the episode, he saw that animation cell sitting at the android's dungeon. So he runs to see Comic Book Guy, takes $750 from Homer. Homer's just whipping out the cash all episode long. And sure enough, when he brings it back, they look underneath the corner of the frame, and there's a note. To Roger Myers, keep drawing. Your moxie more than makes up for your lack of talents. Your pal, Chester J. Lampwick, September 3rd, 1919. Okay, maybe my dad did steal Itchy, but so what? Animation is built on plagiarism. If it weren't for someone plagiarizing the Honeymooners, we wouldn't have had the Flintstones. If someone hadn't ripped off Sergeant Bilko, there'd be no Top Cat, Huckleberry Hound, Chief Wiggum, Yogi Bear, ha, Andy Griffin, Edward G. Robertson, Art Carney. I love the look because Wiggum is in the courtroom and he like kind of looks quizzically off into the camera whenever his name is dropped.
I love that bit. Like you said, get a little meta in this one.
Yeah, and I mean, even before that too, when the surprise witnesses come back in, one of those drawings looks an awful lot like John Swartzwelder.
It is. It is indeed drawn to look just like John Swartzwelder.
So they're not breaking the fourth wall. They're taking dynamite to it.
They're just crushing it.
Blowing
Yeah.
the shit out of it. It's great. And of course, the fat motorcycle twins.
That's like the third time. We're in season 7, and that's like the third or fourth time the McCreary twins have been referenced. But the writers of The Simpsons have often said how much they all were big fans of the Guinness Book of World Records growing up, and they were like essentially the cover people of that book forever. So
yeah. Because also, they're funny every time you see them.
They
I've
are.
looked at that picture hundreds of times, and it makes me laugh every single time.
And then when they're drawn in that Simpsons style too, and also the absurdity that they're on their motorcycles coming into the courtroom. A lot of
Yeah, it's a
fun
really
stuff.
wide doorway into the court.
Roger Myers pleads, Your Honor, if you take away our rights to steal ideas, where are they going to come from? Her? And he points at Marge.
How about Ghost Mutt? Which, does he not remember that she did come up with an Itchy and Scratchy cartoon once?
Oh,
Does he
yeah.
not remember the entire interaction they had already?
They love and hug and love and love and hug.
And props to Marge for coming up with Ghost Mutt on
I
the
want to know about
She
that.
didn't get any time to prepare. That's a solid idea.
That's a
Yeah.
good pitch. That's a good pitch. I'd play with that, or I'd toy with that idea.
yeah.
He's a good old bag of bones, Miles.
Nice. The court does end up ruling in the favor of Mr. Lampwick. Itchy and Scratchy Studios will pay a restitution of $800 billion, though that amount will probably come down a bit on appeal.
Except
Except that he actually hands him a check, and we can't see what the digit at the front is because of the thumb, but we do know that there's enough zeros on it that it's at least $1 billion, and very likely 800 billion.
Mm-hmm. Enough to buy a gold house.
Enough to buy a gold house and a rocket car.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're happy, kid. The studio's bankrupt. You just killed Itchy and Scratchy.
out of business.
We killed Itchy and Scratchy?
Good riddance. Want to go celebrate? I feel like liver and onions.
Which Josh Weinstein and Bill Oakley wanted to point out that they were almost borderline embarrassed that they got Kirk Douglas, of all people, to say the line, I feel like liver and onions, while smacking his lips. Because Kirk Douglas is actually a very, very well-respected Hollywood actor who'd have a very long career. Most notably, he played Spartacus in the movie Spartacus. And I have
No, he didn't, because I'm Spartacus.
I have a fun story from Nancy Cartwright's book that I'll talk about a little later in regards to working with Kirk Douglas. But for right now, we see that Bart is really upset, actually. He didn't realize that while he thought he was just helping the creator of Itchy and Scratchy, he was actually putting them out of business because they don't have enough money after buying the gold house and rocket car to keep the studio open.
Which, to be fair, I mean, a solid gold house would be pretty soft, I would think. One rainstorm and it might all fall apart, right?
Yeah, it might get sticky in the summer.
Ugh.
Oh. Well, Krusty the Clown is trying to fill in his lost segment now, since I would have thought that they might just play reruns personally, but instead they've come up with something that is going to be a little bit more educational. It's going to try I should say, to make learning fun. Hey, who left all this garbage on the steps of Congress?
I'm not garbage. I'm an amendment to be. Yes, I'm an amendment to be. And I'm hoping that they'll ratify me. There's a lot of flag burners who have got too much freedom. I want to make it legal for
policemen to beat them.
Because there's limits to our liberties. At least I hope and pray that there are. Because those liberal freaks go too far.
But why can't we just make a law against flag burning?
Because that law would be unconstitutional. But if we change the Constitution...
then we can make all sorts of crazy laws.
Now you're catching on.
What if people say you're not good enough to be in the Constitution?
Then I'll crush all opposition to be, and I'll make Ted Kennedy pay. If he fights back, I'll say that he's gay.
Good news, Amendment! They ratified you! You're in the U.S. Constitution!
All right! Doors open, boys!
Oh, so much to love about that song.
That was beautiful.
That was great, Richie. Well done, sir.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I gotta say, when I was a child in middle school, my dad bought me a CD called "Songs in the Key of Springfield."
Oh, I had that
this
one.
was one of the ones on there, so I have heard this thing hundreds of times.
Because other than it being like a hilarious, great Schoolhouse Rock parody, that song's catchy as hell.
Yeah,
It really
It
is.
really
I'll
is.
hum
In
that
the
in
worst
my car.
It's a brainworm or whatever they call those. Yeah, it gets stuck
Yeah.
in there. And it's actually really, there's a lot of fun history to this whole segment. In fact, originally it wasn't going to be a segment at all because what Schwartzwelder had pitched is he actually wanted to make a parody of The Simpsons for this spot. It was going to be called Thompson Street. Everybody was like, you can't do it. It's not possible. And he said that he thought that he could handle doing just parodying the tone and sense of humor that The Simpsons had. But ultimately, that idea was canned. They said that was just too much meta. They couldn't do it. So they actually got Jack Sheldon, who was the person who made the original I'm Just a Bill sitting on Capitol Hill, the actual song that they were copying, or parodying, I should say. And Jake Sheldon came in and did this amendment to be song for The Simpsons.
way.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And they still get to parody themselves later on in the episode.
Yeah, it gets super
Gets
meta.
crazy.
Again. Don't worry, kids.
So this part, though, is actually, even though it was the original creator, the Simpsons lawyers were just pulling their hair out for this segment. They were so terrified of getting sued. They made the Simpsons animators change a lot visually speaking so that it didn't look so much like Schoolhouse Rock. But apparently there was a lot of notes coming from the lawyers on this section.
I really do have to take my hats off to the animators just for this whole episode, because I mean, there's this, and then there's the Fritz the Cat segment. Like they're playing with a lot of different visual styles, and that has to be so difficult and stressful to deal with. And they really pulled it off. I mean, they cover a lot of ground in this episode.
Yeah, you're so right, because not only are they covering these visual styles, but then they have to make them both work in the world of The Simpsons without just looking completely off. And I mean, we hit the 1920s animation, we hit, like you said, the Fritz the Cat, we have this, and all of these cartoons blend and flow so nicely that it still feels part of The Simpsons world, even though it's completely bonkers as an episode.
Yeah, I always love seeing cartoon characters watch a cartoon. Because if it looks exactly the same, then is it really a cartoon? I mean, it's cool seeing how they decide to change up the style.
100%.
It reminds me of South Park, because like for the first few seasons of South Park, I always thought Terrence and Phillip was a cartoon show, and then they came out and they're like, no, they're just Canadian.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, Canada's
it's weird
a
to think of
cartoon
things in those
country,
terms.
I
wanna see what the-
I love Canada. No disrespect, guys. It's just a joke.
Our podcast network, the Somebody's Podcast Network, we have quite a few of our friends that do podcasts that are from the Great White North. So we like to give them as much shit as possible, but we love them. They're good people.
Oh, they're awesome. I was there recently, and there's a tangible difference in the air that, you know, you're like, oh yeah, Donald Trump doesn't run this country. It's different up here. This is great.
I'm terrified that they're going to build their wall.
I know. We got to cross the border before this episode airs.
Make a run for
I
it.
get blacklisted. I love you, Canada. My sister just married a Canadian, so hey, I can get in that way. I think.
There you go. Yeah, it's you're a family member.
That's
counts.
it.
So basically, Bart and Lisa learn that they are going to have to get Itchy and Scratchy back. They cannot deal with these 70s educational parody videos that they have to watch.
So it's true. Some cartoons do encourage violence.
They start punching each other as they agree that they're going to work together to get Itchy and Scratchy back. So they go and see Roger Myers, who is now living at a worst Western hotel, and he's using like cardboard boxes as a desk.
And that place has sheet rentals.
Oh
Like,
God!
that's what the sign outside says.
I missed
Ask
that
about our
sign.
sheet rentals.
Oh. So they try to convince Roger Myers that he's going to have to make more cartoons, but he straight up tells them he can't afford to pay royalties. They don't even have the money to produce cartoons or to keep his dad's head in the cryogenic center anymore. Which
Shake,
is
shake.
It's like a leaking cooler
But it's moving.
full of heady goodness.
There were a couple images in this episode that really fucked with my head when I was a kid, and that's one of them. Just seeing the cryogenic box shake.
Well, and he talks to him like, "Are you comfortable in there, Daddy?"
Oh yeah, that made me real uncomfortable as a kid.
See, it must have made me really uncomfortable because I wrote a note down saying I don't remember seeing the actual cutaway where the box actually shakes. Like I have no recollection of that whatsoever until I
you
watched
blacked
this
it out.
Yeah, I guess so. And I've seen this episode
Too dark.
a
Too dark.
whole lot.
It's like it's like people that like saw it and they just can't be around clowns. You can't be around ice coolers.
Yeah, I just can't be around severed heads.
Yeah, that's
my
all.
weird quirk.
The whole cryogenics thing in general is actually a reference to the urban legend that Walt Disney is cryogenically frozen under Walt Disney World there in Florida. Which that's been an urban legend or a conspiracy theory for a really long time. But I just learned of a new conspiracy theory based on this conspiracy theory, which I think is fascinating. Apparently, there are people that believe that Disney made the movie Frozen and called it Disney's Frozen so that when you Google Disney Frozen, you no longer get Walt Disney being cryogenically frozen as the first Google hit anymore.
Oh,
That's
my God.
funny.
I hope that's
Totally
true.
buy it.
I really do. I don't think it's true, but I hope it's true. And speaking of that Somebody's Podcast Network, shout out to the Secret Transmission podcast, the conspiracy, weird, paranormal, fringe part of our network.
That'd be a great episode.
Yeah.
So while Myers is down on his luck, Chester is living his dream. He did, in fact, buy that gold house. He has his rocket car, but he's sitting outside, and as Kent Brockman walks by, he's still doing the old bit. Sir, can I get you a shoe sign or comb your hair, sir? All right, get you on the way back then. So he still has all the trademarks of a homeless person with a really nice house. Or I don't even know if I call it a nice house, just a really expensive house.
Mm.
Reminds me of one of those kiosk people in the mall that you like purposely avoid or get on your phone, pretend to be while they're asking you for your nails.
Yeah, totally.
It begs the
Especially
question,
the get
did
you
he
on the
have
way
to-
back part.
Yeah. Did he have to hire a contractor, or was there just already a gold house on the market that he moved? 'Cause he moved into it pretty quickly.
Great
Yeah.
question. Yeah. He just called the Federal Reserve and ordered a bunch of gold bars he melted down himself, I guess, or laid them brick by brick. Bart basically realizes that because Chester doesn't care about Itchy and Scratchy at all, and he doesn't want to spend his money saving the studio, so the only way he can get his beloved cartoon back is if he gets $183,000. So of course he goes to his father and asks, "Dad, can I have $183,000?"
Yeah, what for?
Of course, he starts to get the wallet out, and again, this is that joke that just caused a divide amongst the staff for whatever reason. I still think it's pretty damn funny.
Well, I mean, it's a callback technically, so like that's what makes it work.
Well, it's not even that's the third beat too. It's like if you didn't give that, I think it makes the other two less funny.
Exactly.
But you know what? In the spirit of the controversy, I'm going to switch sides, and I'm going to say this joke is a disgrace.
I love it. Yeah.
This is a cannon buster. There's no way Homer would do this, and we should all be ashamed of ourselves for supporting this.
30 seasons of The Simpsons, and it all ruined because of this one moment.
Yeah,
I just can't believe in this world anymore.
So this is actually where the golden age, quote unquote, of The Simpsons ended. I gotcha.
Yeah, nice.
With the gold house.
The golden age, exactly. Yeah, well, the kids try to start studying and finding loopholes of ways that they could possibly save Rogers Myers, but they eventually give up and just say, you want to start trying to get a poo out of jail instead? The best part of that is they grab a book that says Public Nudity Codes and Statutes.
There are always so many side things you see on this show where you want to see like the whole story play out. Not that I want to see all of a poo like that, but I just want to see the story.
Yeah, Springfield's alive. There's, a lot of characters. They got to fill their time somehow.
Yeah.
Apu got locked out of his house naked. Yeah.
Well, and I love that they even justify like why later. It's so funny in court. Yeah.
Yeah, they have to buy it back a little bit because you can't go from there forward saying like, oh yeah, Apu's maybe a pedophile. Good night, everybody.
Every time you see the kids ordering a squishy from then on out is going to be a much darker scene.
Yeah, you don't want that. They'll bought it back. It all worked out.
Chocked full of heady goodness.
But you know what? Marge actually notices that the kids seem kind of down in the dumps, and that's not their style. I mean, they can't just give up on Itchy and Scratchy. They're good at these things. I mean, they spoiled Sideshow Bob on no less than 5 separate occasions, and he's a criminal mastermind.
Hey, she's right, Miles. She also brings up how they reunited Krusty with his father and how they helped Skinner get his job back after he got fired, although I don't remember Lisa being involved in that one.
This is where everything is just going to start flying off the handles, but it's so good the way they set this up because they kind of point out their own tropes in a lot of ways and set it up like you think we're about to get another Lisa Bart adventure. Only we see that with the perfect plan in place, Bart and Lisa show up and the studio's already being reopened?
They were too quick, Miles.
And so when no one could think of a plan to resurrect Itchy and Scratchy, a young boy, a wonderful, irrepressible young boy, took it on his own to solve the problem. He discovered that the Postal Service's Mr. Zip was just a ripoff of my father's stick figure character, Manic Mailman.
Oh, murmur.
So the government gave me a huge cash settlement, and Itchy and Scratchy Studios is back in business. All thanks to you, Lester. And this is where things get just weird. It's the Tracy Ullman era Bart is Lester, essentially. So you have like 2 different versions, 2 Barts from 2 different versions of the multiverse, if you will. Bart says it out loud. What the hell is going on?
I don't know, but it looks like you might have a little competition all of a sudden.
And then in a really fun throwback, Tress MacNeille actually takes the voice of Lester, or alternate Bart, if you will. And the reason they did that is because Tress MacNeille is actually the person that would cover for Nancy Cartwright as Bart Simpson when Nancy couldn't make it to do the voice on the Tracy Ullman shorts.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, that's really cool. You get to see him going at it here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think that's kind of just this neat thing where they were able to tie in. I think that's a very Josh Weinstein and Bill Oakley thing as kind of uber fans of the show before they were showrunners. I bet they're just having a nerdgasm making that happen.
Well, now they have all the pieces at their fingertips so they can make it happen.
Things get worse, though, because Apu actually comes to the stage, and he not only thanks Lester, but his sister Eliza, who is the 87 version of Lisa, of course, who they actually vindicated him when he was taking a bath, went to get a paper, fell down, and the door slammed behind him. And then to make matters worse, the doorknob broke off.
Couldn't you just push the door open at that point?
Probably the final nail, the salt on the wound, is when Bart's own hero steps up to the stage.
And I'd like to thank Lester for reuniting me with my estranged wife.
Yay! Which, like many of us, Bart says, I never even heard about that.
Krusty will get married again in the future in more episodes. It's all good.
A great closing line here as we kind of hit this Simpsons reset. Bart walks up to Roger Myers and tells him, hey, I guess you don't need it now, but we had a plan too.
Hey, great! Listen, write it down and mail it to last week when I might have cared. I've got cartoons to make, kids.
This is apparently one of the most quoted lines around the Simpsons office, at least at the time of this commentary. They say this to each other quite often, apparently, which makes total sense. I love it.
I love the last moment coming up.
It's almost creepy, and it's reminiscent of a lot of other episodes' endings that we've seen in the past. But yeah, we get back to where we started with Bart and Lisa watching television. It's just raining on their parade as Lester and Eliza are making the news and being praised for saving the day. And they're kind of like, I guess technically everything worked out all right. But I wasn't the one that solved the problem, and neither was Lisa, and there's just something unsettling about that.
Skateboard.
It's like the same music that plays at the end of the Australia episode with the koala, where it pans in, and we actually kind of do this flip perspective, because we see Lester skateboarding by exactly like Bart did in the episode 2 Bad Neighbors outside of George Bush's front gate. And then we flip around, and this is maybe one of my favorite animation cells, just like single shots ever, because it's actually from Lester's point of view, looking at Bart through the Simpsons window, and Bart just looks like he's in an episode of The Twilight Zone, and he's completely mortified.
And Lester gives you the shifty eyes that will become so famous.
Indeed. And that brings us to the end of The Day the Violence Died.
And I gotta say, that ending is not almost creepy. It's incredibly creepy. Creepy. And when I was a kid, that moment creeped me out more than the head in the box. It's like, oh, Bart's gonna get murdered. This is bad.
Well, Henry, we had so much fun talking to you today. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Best Darn Diddler Review Show, man. This was so much fun. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about this episode before we call it a day?
No, it's bonkers and it's off the wall, and I love it so much.
Like I said, it was just so much fun. This is a great episode, but it was made even more great by you joining us, so we can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy day. Real quick, go ahead and do some more plugging, man. Talk about F is for Family and anything else at all that you'd like to talk about. If you want people to follow you on Twitter or any of that stuff, please let them know.
Yeah, F is for Family is up on Netflix. We have the first 3 seasons up now. We're working on season 4. We don't have a date for that yet, but probably 2025. I'm kidding. It's going to be a while. It won't be that long. But you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter. It's at Henry Gammill. That last name is Gammill. It's just my first and last name. And Miles and Richie, thank you so much for having me on. This is a blast. This is okay. This is my second ever podcast. So,
dude, pleasure is ours, man. This was so much fun. I would love to have you back on again in the future if you'd like to join us down the road.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Hey, Rich, real quick, was there anything that you or that book of yours wanted added about this episode?
Yeah. I forgot, Henry. Who'd you say was playing Frank's father in the new season?
Yeah, nice try.
No, my book, The Simpsons, A Complete Guide to Our Favorite Family, says that Charlie Chaplin is one of the people hanging out in Bumtown, which I did not see. So again, I don't know if it's just one of those random wrong facts this guidebook sometimes has, but I did not catch him. And they also said there was a 4-H Club poster with the name Mo written on it in one of the backgrounds once, which we had Skinner do a 4-H Club reference a few episodes back. So there's another one there. Other than that, man, I just thought seasons 5 and 6 would be my favorite, but season 7, I really, really enjoyed this episode a lot. And I knew I enjoyed it before I watched it again, but I don't know. I think I just might be a meta fan. That must be the only explanation, because I love all the tie-ins in this one and all the callbacks, and it was just a whole lot of fun. I loved Kirk Douglas, and everything about it, man, was just fun.
Kirk Douglas in his best role of his career.
Yeah, absolutely.
I talked a little bit about, or I teased earlier that I had a little more to say about Kirk Douglas, and a couple of things. I'll start with the more sad one. This was actually his last role before he had a stroke that limited his speech abilities. So this was actually the last role that he ever performed in. However, Nancy Cartwright talks about in her biography, My Life as a 10-Year-Old Boy, the experience of working with him in the studio, which, to clarify, she wants to make it very clear, I should make it very clear, that she is in no way saying that this was a bad thing, but he came from a time where it wasn't he didn't do a lot of takes. And in fact, he initially said that he would only do one take of everything. They got him to agree to do 2. One slight issue, the headset bothered him, so he refused to wear it, which means that Bill Oakley was unable to direct him. So Nancy Cartwright herself actually got that pleasure. She was able to hear Bill through her headset, and she was able to direct Kurt through, in the studio as they worked together. Now, the 2-line thing, they were a little worried about, or the 2-take thing, they were a little worried about, but he was an absolute pro, and he knocked out almost every single line on the first take. However, he did in fact struggle with one specific line. He did it once, didn't work. He did it twice, and Nancy noticed that there was a mistake again. So, like an improvisational master, she faked a sneeze and then apologized profusely, saying that she ruined the take and asked if he would please take one more, and knocked it out of the park. But just what a fun story to end here for the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate you joining and downloading and coming along for this journey through The Simpsons, the Golden Age, and beyond. You can, of course, find us everywhere online at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY. Richie is at theWiz_Kid23, and I am at MrMostDaysOff. We can't wait to be back again with you next week, and we're going to be joined by local Dallas comedian Daniel Matthews to discuss the episode. I forgot it.
A Fish Called Selma?
A Fish Called Selma.
That was a nice podcast we had once. Last time we tried to talk to a bunch of 4-year-olds.
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.
What up, everybody? This your boy B-Rob, the host of the Random Ramblers with Rob podcast, to where we have random guests and we have random conversation. I don't know why we're saying we, because it's just me, but I guess it's we in the sense that I have a guest weekly, airs every Sunday and everything. So I guess it's we like that. We French. So check it out. Go to randomrobcast.com or check me out on Instagram at Random Ramblers with Rob, or Twitter at It's B-Rob, ITSBROB. Whoa.